Okay, Mega Whale team, welcome back to the channel and thank you for tuning in. I hope you're all having an absolutely amazing weekend. In today's video, we are going to be discussing the recent rejection and breakdown from the weekly uptrend and that monthly downtrend, resulting in a volatile short-term correction into the $82,000 region. We're going to be discussing what this means for the weekly charts as Bitcoin approaches a major level on the weekly RSI, as well as what this means for the short term, going over potential short-term targets, potential reversal points, and trigger points that would confirm continuations lower. Before we get into it, smash that like button, hit that comment button, and subscribe to the channel. We post daily videos for Bitcoin focusing on the facts, the data, the technical, and the structural information. No hype, no BS, no emotion, pure raw TA. If that is the kind of content you are interested in, join us on Telegram. That is the first link down below. You'll get access to charts, updates, videos, educational posts, news events, and everything you need to stay in the loop with cryptocurrency, with Bitcoin, and the relevant economic news. And if you were interested in taking your trading to the next level, join us in VIP. You can click the pinned comment right now to get access to a VIP sale between 10 to 30% off memberships. You can find all membership information by clicking the first link, and our entire 50+ month trading track record by clicking the second link. You'll get access to two channels, the main VIP channel and the VIP exclusive group chat. We'll love to see you in there, so check it all out and we'll jump into the content. Taking a look at Bitcoin over the past couple days over here, we saw a bit of consolidation within this region between that weekly uptrending level and that monthly downtrend. We were discussing over the last two videos that we were expecting a very major move to occur over the weekend. We have now seen that move occur as the RSI broke toward the downside, resulting in the price correcting all the way into our target level, which is exactly between that 81.6 to that $80,000 level. We've actually come down and touched that level absolutely perfectly on the short term, reaching the first level of support since we have broken this weekly uptrend. As we just mentioned, we're going to be taking a look at the potential short-term expectations from here, what it means for Bitcoin if we see a loss of 80,000, and how the buyers can step back in since it is not looking too amazing for them. Let's move over to the market data to start with. 24-hour volume and liquidations, let's jump into it. Looking at all of this data here, volume down 24%, 173 billion over here, with liquidations down 24% at 338 million, 297 million in long liquidations, with only 41 million in short liquidations, telling us already a massive amount of people were jumping in far too many longs far too early as we were approaching that resistance. We were saying for days over here, guys, that confirmation is the insurance you pay to be right. And until we get the strength, okay, the structure, our 3-point method of validation, strength, structure, and trend to all signify that the downtrend we have been in since January is over, jumping into longs at a point of not only major horizontal resistance represented by that $89,000 to $87,000 horizontal level, but weekly downtrending resistance represented by a diagonal trend level, was a unwise decision. We have seen a lot of people FOMO into the market, and those people are now suffering by, mass liquidations, as we can see. Now, although the charts are looking horrendous here, there is still some hope for the buyers, and we'll discuss that in today's video, but all in all, it is not looking too amazing. We're going to be discussing the macro implications of what is occurring and how next week could be a very volatile week. So let's move over to our DXY now. The DXY not looking too amazing, still holding within that horizontal region, not expecting too much to happen here between the 50 and the 200 moving average. We are expecting sideways consolidation for a couple of weeks, potentially moving into the end of May, potentially into June. We do expect an eventual continuation into these lows over the course between now and the end of the year, but this can take some time to play out. Looking at the S&P 500, again, not looking amazing here, guys. We told you for the S&P 500 to be bullish, we needed to see a weekly close above 5,860, this orange line. What we can see, we have rejected from that level. A prior level of support turns into a current level of resistance. Until we break above here, the S&P 500 still has its eyes set on a massive drop all the way down to 5,300. Now, for a solid weekly candle close, we need to see at least 5,750, which is that black line, again, the opening price of the prior red candle. And for a strong weekly close, we need to be above 5,800. As you can see, it is highly likely we're not only not going to see either of those, but we are actually under the 50 EMA, and actually we've engulfed that prior green candle. So it does look like it is preparing for a downward week moving into the new week. It is not looking too amazing. Our targets for the S&P 500, while we sit below these two levels, is still going to be 5,300, 5,295. Again, if we drop down to these regions, this will be a major reversal point, a potential bottom point for the S&P 500. And if we break above 5,860, we are expecting continuations to new highs. Until then, the trajectory are downwards, the targets are lower, the expectations are lower. Watching the new week for more information. I will also like to add the upcoming economic news we have may massively influence the S&P 500, particularly any news surrounding interest rates. So we do need to keep our eyes and ears open to how those narratives can potentially shift and thus make any short-term adjustments to our expectations. Let's move over to Bitcoin, guys. Now, before we do, make sure to sign up to the links down below, BitGet, BitUnix, or BingX. You'll get a lifetime trading fee discount of 15% off all your trading fees. You'll support the content, you'll support the channel, and you'll support yourself. Sign up to the links down below. It takes a few minutes, and we'll see you back in the video. If you are looking for a new exchange or just want to support the channel, sign up to BitUnix with the link down below. You'll get a lifetime trading fee discount of 15%, which can build up to 45% based on your trading volume, as well as access to a bonus reward center, and of course, all of the exclusive campaigns we run on this exchange. You'll also get access to BitUnix being a non-KYC exchange, meaning you can sign up from anywhere in the globe without regulations. And most importantly, I only promote exchanges I trust and I use. As you can see, I trade on BitUnix very regularly, being the highest VIP level with over $500 million in trading volume for the last 30 days. And lastly, if you were interested in signing up to our other two exchanges, BingX or BitGet, you can also do that via the links down below. You as well will get the 15% trading fee discount and everything else that comes with it. Go ahead and sign up. Thank you for supporting. Let's jump back in. Okay, legends, let's go ahead and jump back into it. So first and foremost, guys, a big congratulations to everyone who's been paying attention and to everyone who's been listening to our analysis. Again, sometimes it is easy to jump in the market when you start seeing green candles, but I'd like to really push that just because the candle is green, it doesn't mean the market is bullish, and just because the candle is red, it doesn't mean the market is bearish. For us to be bullish and bearish, we need to see structural shifts. We need to see shifts in momentum regarding strength, and we need to see trends actually break. Until then, all we are seeing is natural and expected price fluctuations within an expected trend. So a lot of people were getting excessively bullish as we were approaching resistance here, even though we had no confirmation that this level was going to break. And while we approach resistance, the probabilities are always going to be greater for an equal and opposite reaction. And therefore, we have now seen a flush of a lot of these longs, and the price action has dropped quite considerably. In today's video, like we mentioned, we are going to be covering everything from the high time frames to the short term, but let's start on the short term. So if you've been paying attention to our content, you would know that we've said if we were to see a break of the RSI, we would very likely see the price action continue and follow suit. Now, if we take a look at that RSI breakdown, that actually occurred around about 4 hours prior to the price action breaking down. So within that 4-hour period, we saw the RSI close below, and then we saw that candle close underneath that trend line. Again, the RSI acting as a leading indicator, the price action was going to drop. What we can see here on the 4-hourly is we have a very clear downtrend now on the RSI, which is an indication of the momentum we have been developing since, again, the inability to sustain above that weekly downtrend and throughout the drop from the weekly uptrend. If we draw a horizontal level in over here from our equal lows into our levels of support, we can see the price action has more or less come down to just tap. We can draw it up a little bit higher, tap the exact top level of that high time frame support. This level here is going to be an expected level of support as we expected upon the breakdown, our first target being the 80 to 81.5k level. Let's go ahead and identify this first and foremost. For Bitcoin to continue aggressively downwards, we need to drop below $80,000. If we lose $80,000, what we can see here already on the visible range volume profile is the VRPV significantly drops off. This suggests that the horizontal volume, okay, the volume measured on a horizontal scale significantly decreases. Essentially what that means is there will be less buying volume as we approach these lower levels, thus bearish volatility will significantly increase, assuming we have negative momentum, which we likely will have if we were to drop 80k. So what we'd expect? We'd expect a strong and volatile correction for Bitcoin if $80,000 is lost. Until then, we are approaching an area of support over the weekend. We have got a downtrend on the RSI. For us to expect any sort of move back toward the upside, we need to see the RSI break through. If we do see the RSI breakthrough, Bitcoin could rise potentially as high as around 84.6, and best case scenario, we are watching the prior change of character at around 86,000, which would yet again retest this downtrend. So although the charts are looking very grim, we don't have the confirmation yet that Bitcoin is going to commence this more aggressive, more violent macro downtrend just yet, okay? We are still in this decision zone that we have been in, we are still sitting in, but we have essentially taken the first step towards that greater downward move. Now, a lot of people are probably thinking, oh, Whale, you're so late to predicting a downward move. That's a big falsity, guys. We have again been bearish on Bitcoin. We've sold all of our assets, all of our cryptocurrency on the 14th of December, Bitcoin, altcoins, everything, and we have been cash ever since, expecting these pullbacks, waiting for the ideal time to re-enter. So we are still doing so. We are playing cautious. We are still waiting for these entries, waiting for the confirmation, which we'll discuss in a second. But it's important to note that now, as we have approached this level of support, there is a potential we see the price action push back up again, flush all these late longs moving into a new week before we then make a definitive move, whether it be back down under 80k and into a higher time frame correction, or above the weekly downtrend and into a higher time frame rally. Because if we're looking at confirmation points, 80k loss is going to be what we need to see for a steeper and more aggressive correction. We'll discuss in a second. And the weekly downtrend as well as the $89,000 level, which lines up essentially with this prior high, is what we need to see break for a higher time frame uptrend. So let's talk about these levels, guys. If we were to lose 80,000, what would that look like? If we were to break the weekly uptrend, what will that look like, and what are the macro consequences? Moving over to high time frame chart. So as we can see here, guys, we have got our weekly downtrend. We have got our horizontal level here, 89,000 to 88,000. Horizontal box, again, prior macro support. This is support. Prior macro support turns into current macro resistance. So you can see here, support, 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 and now resistance. So prior support turns into current resistance. If we're moving on to the weekly chart, what do we need to see to be confident that this downtrend is over? What do we need to see to be confident in new long positions? Well, number one, strength. We need to see the RSI break upward, okay? We need to see the upward break prior to the downward break. We'll talk about that in a second. Number two, structure. We need to see structural levels break. Breakouts of structural levels signify not only potential reversals, but it shows us visibly that the sellers have exhausted, or at least the buyers are back in control. Structural levels 89,000 horizontal. And our trend needs to break, which is our weekly downtrend. When we have all three of those things, I will then be bullish, expecting continuations. Until then, I'm expecting corrections for Bitcoin. I still stand by that. So let's talk about these worst case scenarios. As we know, for the worst case scenario to play out for Bitcoin to continue lower, the first piece of the puzzle was to break the weekly uptrend with the RSI breakdown. The second piece of the puzzle is now to lose 80,000, and upon the loss of 80,000, we will have the third piece of the puzzle, which is the confirmation, and that is going to be the loss of the 50 EMA, as well as the loss of the 44.62 horizontal on the RSI. Breaking both of these levels, and that will happen at the same time as the 50 EMA is essentially a representation here of the 44.62, we will likely see a macro momentum shift downward, which could open up the potential for a move all the way down to 55,000, okay? Prior sell side liquidity. More importantly, 55,000 is going to be this level on the RSI right over here. So a loss of that level would signify that right now, the price action in terms of our strength is at a massive, massive point of discrepancy, indicating we were showing more strength here than we were at this point, suggesting the price action will likely retrace all the way back down to these levels, okay? So we do not want to see that, of course, but we are aware of it and we're prepared for it. That's most importantly. It doesn't matter what happens in the market. If you are prepared for it, it's irrelevant. So let's take a look at the 44.62. The 44.62 has essentially been the bull market level of support in terms of momentum, because when we saw the break above this level here, and this is again the falling wedge structure we broke the falling wedge structure right over here. That marked right here, 23rd of January 2023, marked the end of the bear market. The bear market was around an 8 to 9 month long downtrend. We, of course, not only had the downtrend on the RSI over here, which we can see we also broke out just before early January, but of course we had the falling wedge at the end of the downtrend, signifying a reversal pattern nearing the end of the trend, signifying that the buyers were finally stepping back in, and the selling pressure that was present over the course of nearly a whole year period or 2 year period had finally exhausted, facilitating a potential reversal, which we saw play out. From that reversal point, we entered a uptrend, and through the uptrend, we developed three very distinctive structures, or two very distinctive structures. We had a horizontal consolidation, about 8 months, okay? We had a macro descending channel formation, about 8 months. On both of these consolidation patterns, the lowest point retested marked the retest of the 44.62, and after the 44.62 was retested, we then saw a breakout of the macro downtrend on the RSI, which eventually triggered a continuation upwards, okay? So this is the bull run support. If we drop below here, we are entering what you would call the start of a potential macro downtrend. Will it be a bear market? I'm not going to go out and say that. I don't think we've seen a traditional bull market in terms of what people think and associate the word bull market to. I think people associate the word bull market to the 4-year cycle. So will we see a bear market in association with the traditional sense of a 4-year cycle? No, but will we see a macro downtrend which could be identified or defined as a bear market? Yes, from a traditional sense, a bear market will be 20% down from its highs, so we could define it as that, but it doesn't really matter how we define things, it's just words. What matters is the meaning behind these and what consequences these occurrences have on the charts and how we can capitalize on these movements. So when we're looking at the weekly chart per se, we can see the Gaussian channel lines up under the 50 EMA. So we know the loss of the 50 EMA, loss of the horizontal, results in the price breaking into the Gaussian channel. So for instance, when we see breaks into the upper band of the Gaussian channel, we've seen scenarios where we enter higher time frame downtrends through the channel into the 50 EMA, 200 moving average. So that is going to be a potential move for Bitcoin if we drop below these levels. And that's another bit of confluence as to why that level and that target is potential. So a lot is happening here, guys. Bitcoin is really on the edge of the cliff, quite literally on the edge of the cliff. This is right here. This is a cliff. And if we drop below here, we do run the risk of a much, much steeper and much, much more aggressive correction for Bitcoin. the hope is, and this is the saving grace for Bitcoin. We'll come back to 1 second. Let's just go ahead and go back to the weekly, sorry. The saving grace for Bitcoin is, can Bitcoin, this is a big if Bitcoin is able to break this weekly downtrend and the $89,000 level prior to the weekly drop of the RSI, it is very likely we are going to see the same pattern repeat, which is horizontal consolidation into 44.62 retest and preceding a break of the RSI, resulting in an expansionary move. So there is hope for the bulls. I don't think it's looking amazing, but there is hope. That's the most important thing. There is hope. A lot needs to happen, but there is hope. And while there is hope, it doesn't mean, yeah, I'm going to ape into the market and I'm going to put all my chips in one basket. I'm just going to pray that this plays out, because that is how you get absolutely, utterly destroyed, okay? It is more about identifying when that potential scenario is actually confirmed, so you can act at best, with best information and as fast as possible when the time is right to capitalize on that move, and at least knowing the opposite move is still possible when that move is not validated. So in essence, to layman's terms, the upward move is possible, but when the confirmations have not been hit, such as now, the expected move is the direction of the price action at the moment. So the current trend is the expected trajectory of the price action, while the invalidations of that trend has not been met, because the invalidations of the downtrend in this instance is also the confirmation of the reversal and uptrend. So while, with that being said, is trade with the trend, or the trend is your friend until it ends. Whichever one of those variations that floats your boat. That is essentially the message I'm trying to push forward over here. So a massive week for Bitcoin. Some critical levels we are going to see retested this week. We've already seen a lot of volatility into the weekend. We've seen some horizontal levels tested. We can see the price action here is starting to show signs of its reaching support. If we break that RSI, it's really going to be a matter of how high can this reversal go. If we can push back above this trend line, well, that is great. The buyers are back. The market's going to rally. If we can't, if we drop below 80K, we are in for a whole lot of pain, because that is likely going to result in a drop below that RSI in the weekly and into that 50,000, high 50,000 region. So thanks for tuning, guys. Have a fantastic day. Catch you guys in the next one tomorrow. I'll see you then. Bye.